Perfect. Welcome everyone once again for the recording. My name is Juan Munoz. Thank you for joining us with Coffee with CEF. I'm an Engagement and Stewardship Manager at the Catholic Education Foundation. We have a very special and exciting lineup of guests for you all today. But before we get started, I'd like to start with a few housekeeping items. We're going to start today with all of our microphones muted to allow for the best sound quality. And we also encourage you to take a few seconds to glance at the top right corner of your screen, where you will see an icon designed for you to select your view of the session. For the best viewing experience, we do recommend setting it to the speaker view, so that way you can see whoever's speaking at that specific moment in our session. On that note, I have Sandra with me this morning as the tech support for our session. She's here to make sure you guys are all taken care of. Sandra, could you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here with you all. If you have any technical issues this morning, please feel free to send them my way in the chat feature down below. All right, Johnny, get started.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sandra. So glad to see you. So if this is the first time you're joining us for Coffee with CF, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. The Catholic Education Foundation provides tuition awards to thousands of students every year, thanks to the support of our donors. We're so excited to continue bringing the very best that our Catholic schools have to offer, whether it be an introduction to a unique enrichment program at our Catholic schools, or highlighting some of our community partners throughout the Archdiocese of Los Angeles that are committed to providing the essential ingredients for academic excellence. We want you all to know that we're working hard, shoulder to shoulder with countless others, to ensure that the many variables behind students successfully attending Catholic school are reduced and hopefully one day eliminated. This morning, we are honored to hear from the Catholic Schools Collaborative, who in their 4th year have successfully brought the literacy and numeracy gap down over 200% in some of the schools they are working with. Operating as a lean team with a talent to orchestrate a wonderful wisp of collaborative ingenuity across LA and beyond, their whole child perspective is truly the cornerstone of their ethos. When I first spoke with Ellen in preparations for this episode, she mentioned that they have partnered with over 45 entities in order to meet the extensive needs of some of our very own beloved Catholic school communities. And you know what, before we learn of all the amazing work that CSC is doing at all of our Catholic schools, I would love to introduce all of our wonderful guests this morning. First up, we have Ellen P. Holton. For Catholic School Collaboratives, she is the executive director. She leads the CSC, directing and implementing the organization's simple whole child model for under-resourced PK through 8 grade schools in the LA Archdiocese. Ellen and the CSC team are committed to closing the literacy and numeracy gaps in the school communities they serve, and are experiencing tremendous progress in achieving those outcomes. She's a member of LMU's School of Education's Board of Visitors, former co-leader of the LA Catholic Funders Group Leadership Innovation Team, and current member of the Catholic Education Cooperative. Ellen believes that with a focus on equity and access to Catholic education, meaningful opportunities for all students can be created, regardless of the zip code in which they live. Our next guest for today is Steve Johnson. He's the Catholic Schools Collaborative Leadership Supports. Steve oversees all of CSC's leadership supports, including curriculum adoption, program implementation with Fidelity, data collection and analysis, leadership training and coaching, mentorship of school leaders through the planning and implementation of CSC's Simple Approach, and facilitating the CSC's leadership professional learning communities, otherwise known as the PLCs. Steve was a professor at Santa Clara University for 31 years and was the chair of the education department at the university. He brings an exceptional wealth of knowledge and experience to the CSC from a career in Catholic school instruction and administration at the elementary, secondary, and university levels, as well as considerable background in accounting and financial management. Thanks, Steve. We're glad to have you. Melissa Hara is our next guest. We will also be hearing from later on, is a CSC instructional data coach. Melissa received her undergraduate and graduate degrees at Jesuit universities. She's currently a doctoral student in Loyola Marymount University's Educational Leadership for Social Justice program. After serving as a Catholic elementary school teacher, Melissa served as the principal of Dolores Mission School in Boyle Heights. Under Melissa's leadership, the instructional team of Dolores Mission School facilitated outstanding student literacy gains, including during the quarantine this past spring. Melissa's personal goals of providing a high quality education to all students align with the CSC's goals of providing a quality whole child program that meets the needs of students and effectively prepares them for ongoing learning and life success. In her role as the CSC instructional data coach, Melissa supports principals and teachers in responding to site data to create the conditions for progress and student success. Thank you so much, Melissa. And next we have Jessica Yost. She's the CSC's instructional technology specialist. Jessica is a graduate student at SDSU, so San Diego State University, for those of you who may not know that acronym, completing a Master of Science degree in public health with an emphasis in environmental health. In her role as CSC's instructional technology specialist, she assists in the technological support of distance learning for grades TK through 8 for 20 schools within CSC's network. She provides support to over 200 teachers and administrators to ensure competency in navigating digital learning management systems and curriculum platforms. She began working for CSC at the beginning of the COVID-19 quarantine, so not too long ago, to make educational content available online to teachers quickly. Over the summer, Jessica trained, listen to this, 240 teachers, principals, and administrators on how to use the highest quality learning management system, Canvas, and assisted in setting up their courses. She created training courses for teachers, virtual demos, and informational webinars, and designs critical parent teaching workshops and Canvas parent help guides in Spanish and English. Wow, that's a lot of work in a small window of time. Great job, Jessica. And last but certainly not least is Sister Adela L. Armentrout. She's the education counselor for the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul. We're so happy to have her on. Sister Adela has been a Daughter of Charity for 38 years. She worked in inner city elementary schools for 35 years and 17 of those years as a principal. She was a classroom teacher and principal at Our Lady of Tulpa Boyle Heights, Los Angeles, over a period of 16 years. Currently, Sister Adela serves on her community's council as counselor for education, supervising 9 elementary schools and 1 high school. We have an outstanding group of individuals with us today, and I'm so happy to hear from them. They've been doing a wonderful work. But before we get into the nitty gritty, what I really would like to do is, before we get started, I'd like to ask each of you, as we usually do, what are you drinking this morning? And if you have an awesome mug, please let us know a little story behind it as well too. I'm gonna kick it off with Ellen. Ellen, what are you drinking this morning?
So good morning, everyone. And I am drinking Pete's Organic French Roast out of the Catholic Schools Collaborative mug of choice.
Yes.
I think that this is probably tomorrow's coffee I'm already drinking because I was up so late being excited about the Dodgers win. So didn't sleep too much last night, but great to be here with everybody.
Absolutely. Go Dodgers. Thank you, Ellen, so much. And you know what? We're going to jump over to Steve. Steve, are you drinking anything this morning? Do you have anything in your cup?
Sure am. I'm drinking Pete's also in my Charlie Brown mug.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love the Charlie Brown mug. I'm a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan, so when it's cartoons and lively animation, it definitely starts my morning out right. Let's go ahead over to Sister Adela. Are you drinking anything there in your car, I see? Actually, you're on mute. Let's get you off mute. Hold on 1 second. Sandra, do you think we could jump over and get her off of mute? We want to hear what she's got to drink.
I got it. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Green tea frappuccino. I'm near the Starbucks.
Nice and cold, huh?
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Sister Adela. Appreciate it. Hey, Melissa, are you drinking on anything special?
Earl Grey tea, and this is actually a cup that was given to me by one of our families at Dolores Mission, and it says, "You are a woman of faith." And our families are incredibly humble, and so it means so much to be able to receive even the smallest tokens. And so I got this a few years ago, and it's still with me.
Oh, that's so special. Thank you so much for sharing. Jessica, are you drinking on anything special?
I am every morning, black coffee, and this is one of my favorite mugs. My youngest brother actually made it for me a few years ago.
Ooh.
And it has pictures of my dogs on it with inspirational quotes from my dogs, including stick to your goals and the sky's the limit. So it's a great way to start the day.
Oh, that's too perfect. Gosh, I need some pets around my house that'll get me going. That's amazing. Great, great, great to hear from everyone. I'm so, so happy. Hey, you know what, Steve? You've been helping me out this entire way. I think we're ready for your slides. So the Catholic Schools Collaborative, we met with them maybe a few days ago just to kind of get today's program started, and they're going to bless us with a full presentation on the ins and outs of everything that they do and what makes them successful, why they're in their Catholic schools. And I'm just so excited to hear what they have to say and all the information that they brought with us this morning too. So you know what, first things first, we are going to ask Ellen, can you give us a bit of background on who the CSC is and the work you are doing in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles?
Well, absolutely, Johnny, and thanks again for having us today. And I think it's not going to be long before most of the folks here on the live stream are going to realize we are a very different entity than probably a lot of the folks you've had as guests, because we are very highly data driven. So you will see a lot of slides that indicate that. But in short, the Catholic Schools Collaborative, the CSC, is an architect of a network of impactful partnerships that support our vision to create the conditions for sustainable Catholic schools to take root, to grow continuously, and to thrive as a result of our comprehensive strategy, which is whole child, whole school, whole community approach, which we call our simple whole child approach. We're taking kind of a different approach. It's a collaborative approach, fostering best practices and capacity building, learning experience, parent engagement, effective administration, and SEL, social emotional support. So we truly do focus across 4 pillars of activity. We believe that by focusing in leadership, academics, families, and social emotional, we can really realize transformational change across our schools. How do we know we're there? Well, holistic whole school sustainable change such that each school achieves excellence, and the excellence that's really required by all of LA Catholic schools. So we're really trying to prove the point that a Catholic education is an advantage for life. We believe that it can be. We believe that there's work to be done, and there's so many people that help us get to that point that we partner with, that we'll be learning about through this presentation. So we're very grateful for that. Some of the indicators of our work would be increased leadership capacity. So understanding leaders being able to lead that transformative change through high turnover that we're all very aware of, and through conditions such as the COVID pandemic. Increased opportunities for parent-family engagement, which is critical to the academic outcomes of our students that we all know. And then also significant change in school climate, the culture, as well as instructional programs. So specifically, we're targeted on evidence-based aligned curriculum that has data that we can use to drive instruction. Our true focus is closing the literacy and numeracy gap for the communities that we serve. I do want to say, before we get too far into the presentation,
Sure, go ahead.
We could not do this work without our partnership with CEF. So our schools would not be nearly as effective or sustainable without the generosity and the tuition support that CEF provides. So big props to you all and the work that you've been doing for decades. And I do know that Sister Adela wants to share a really lovely sort of anecdote about that illustrates how deep and wide CEF's impact has gone even across generations. So Sister, if you'd like to tell that story.
Okay, so yeah, first of all, working in Boyle Heights and at Talpa School, we were really grateful for CEF and the support we got. And one of our families, they're street vendors. They're street vendors. That's how they make their living. They were paying $10 a month, and they could barely pay that to the school, but insisted they should do that. And near the end of the school year in May, I found out we were $39,000 in deficit and that I wasn't going to be able to make payroll in June. And I'm trying to figure out how we're going to make this thing work. And the father of the girl comes in and he says, I have to keep her out of school till I can pay the tuition, because I had asked some people who could pay tuition and weren't paying it that you couldn't come back into the school till you paid your tuition because they could afford it. So he thinks it means him. And I've got the 39,000 in my head. I can't make payroll. I looked at him and I said, we're not going to worry about the $10. I said, you keep her in school. God will provide. And there was this piece in saying God will provide us, along with a little screamy voice going, you can't make payroll in June.
Mm.
So he left and he comes back about 10 minutes later with a crate of oranges. And he says, we will trust that God provides. In the meantime, share these oranges with your faculty. So it's like the loaves and the fishes. So for me, and the same family, his daughter had brought her children to the school as well. And her children were the first ones to make it through high school. And it was with the support of CEF. They brought us 5 gallons of peanuts when their oldest made it into high school to share out with the faculty. And to me, it's like the loaves and the fishes. It's not just a matter of CEF has a board and you give us this money, but it gives hope. It allows people to have hope, to know that they can get the best that they need for their kids, because everybody wants what's best for their children. And it allows people to have dignity because they can everybody wants to give something. So that's my story. I really feel like it's this whole network of we bring what we have to the table and God provides.
That's such a wonderful sentiment to start our morning off. I truly 100% agree and believe that God does provide through the ebbs and flows of what we do and how we make it work and just the individual lives we live. I think it's good to know and to be able to rely on the fact that God does provide and will provide as well. Thank you, sister. Appreciate it. Ellen, were you going to jump back and give us a little bit more information?
Yeah, so I think one of the questions you had when we were talking was who partners with the CSE. And so far, our comprehensive strategy for access to Catholic PK to 8th grade schools has proven to be of significant interest to schools, expert partners, ed partners, and funders alike. Over the past 5 years, we've provided a variety of supports to some 45 urban Catholic schools in the LA Archdiocese. Currently, we are working with 20 schools, providing programmatic support to those schools, including 240 teachers and administrators, and just over 4,000 students and their families. So these maps kind of give an indication of our reach. We're just really here in the Los Angeles County. Our organization earned its 501c3 back in 2014. I joined the organization in 2016, and we really haven't stopped working. We're building programs across all 4 of our pillars. We partner with experts, we partner with academia, we partner with social emotional partners. Currently, we're running 22 academic programs in our schools and 20 support programs in our schools, across the schools that we're serving, for a total of 42 programs. And what that looks like is just a lot of work, a lot of program partnership. And one of the things that makes the CSE very unique is our ability really to not only fundraise and work with funders to support these partners, but we also have a program management lens that we're really focused on making sure that all of the supports that we deliver into the communities, they're not cookie cutter, so they're real customized by the school community, which is important, but that there is expectation and there's agreement to those expectations. So schools sign off, our program partners sign off, and we provide that then layer of accountability and transparency back to the funders, which is always, I think, very, very important, especially to the funding community. So we basically have 30 expert partners that help deliver our targeted supports. We currently work with higher ed folks such as Cal State Northridge, who provides mindfulness supports to our schools. We're also working with LMU, their Center for Urban Resilience. It provides the restorative practices under our social emotional and wraparound services pillar. We're working with LMU, the Helen B. Landgarten Art Therapy Clinic, providing art therapy supports to teachers, parents, and students across 16 of our schools. We work with Stanford, Rice, and Brigham Young universities that help us with STEM, math, and science curriculum and training and expertise. Outside of our ed partners, we're working with conscious classroom management folks and behavior analysts to help provide the very, very needed classroom management supports that our teachers just really haven't gotten. And so among many other folks, but you can kind of see, Johnny, that it's really is a collaborative effort.
Certainly, I do see that. That's impressive. I mean, just the reach that you guys do have from those slides that he showed us, and just all the ways that you're able to be the connective tissue between, what our schools need and strategically setting them in place is, it's outstanding. I'd like to jump over to Steve. What would you kindly walk us through and maybe paint a picture on sort of the vision of maybe the next few years for CSC?
As we look across the next 5 years, our vision really is to do things strategically to get results, recognizing that data matters and needs to drive what we do on a daily basis. That our primary focus is to close the literacy and the numeracy gap, and you only do that by implementing proven high-quality programs with fidelity, and to make sure that students learn every day wherever they are, whether they're remote, in school, whatever that may be. We're organized around a goal by 2025 to see 9 things are true in all of the schools we work with. That students are reading at a level that they can do high school and college work, that we've tested out of the various skill programs to make sure that they have the skills they need, that they are reading a substantial body of work, that they are engaged sufficient minutes during the school year and during the summer to actually learn, that we use instructional methods that have a high measured effect size, that we're using on-level social studies and science with labs and field and engineering components, and that we're using high-quality math and applied math applications that get kids through K-7 so they're ready for Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Now, if we look at those goals, in 2018-19, we looked and measured and saw where we were as a baseline and saw that we weren't anywhere near any of those yet. Last year in 2019-20, we made a serious start in 4 of them. And so you'll see in yellow the ones that we got into place last year. As we begin this year, all 9 have begun. You'll notice that none of them are green yet, but that right now we've made a significant start on each of these 9 this year across the 20 schools that are most heavily involved. And our goal by 2025 is to make sure that this is true. All 9 goals are met across the schools we work with.
Amazing. That's a very clear and concise goal with a with a lot of goals as well too, though. But I have 100% confidence that you guys will make it. So you know what, I'm going to actually jump over to Melissa. Could you describe some of the programs that you guys use there at the CSC?
Sure. So go ahead, Steve, advance to the next slide. Thank you. Within the academic pillar, we use state-of-the-art research-based programs, which are proven to be highly effective in enhancing student academic outcomes for populations similar to the ones we serve in our schools. The majority of these are accessed online and several are computer adaptive. Each site has a different combination of programs based on the direction from the principal. We use multiple programs to triangulate the needs of each individual student. In ELA, as Ellen said, our focus is on closing the literacy gap, and the way we do that is by offering a combination of various programs on early literacy, level literacy, and opportunities to engage in rich and diverse literature. Go ahead on the next slide. In math, our focus is on making sure that our students are numerate and ready for algebra by the 8th grade. So we offer core and supplemental programming in math concepts and applied math. We also deliver state-of-the-art science and social studies programs that allow students to access high-quality grade level content that really is going to prepare them for future learning, especially in the sciences. And as Ellen said, we partner with several folks who support our whole child model in delivering physical, mental, and social emotional learning opportunities. Next slide. So research shows that student learning outcomes are significantly increased when the proven methods are implemented with fidelity. Next slide. That being said, principals and teachers must then fully understand and commit to implementing each piece of the puzzle with fidelity. And to support this, training is offered in each of the programs that we deliver. Next slide. We have a wide variety of data points within each of these programs, and we work with the principals and now through my role with the teachers in developing their knowledge and efficacy in understanding, accessing, and responding to the data in their context to advance student learning. We also monitor the data generated from our support programs to inform our current and future work. Thank you.
Wow. So that's amazing. Just kind of combing through, visually with some of those charts that you'd shown, like that is a lot of programs. Like the fact that you guys are able to sort of orchestrate all of this together and bring it to the schools that need it is truly remarkable. And I guess that leads me to the next question that I have too, is that maybe Jessica can fill us in a little bit as well too. Is what about the management of all of this? How do you guys even manage this for the schools or with the schools in partnership? And if there's one to highlight, please go ahead too.
Sure thing. So we're actually using Canvas, which is the highest quality course management system that exists, that it supports online learning and teaching. Think of Canvas like an online classroom. Students can easily access their lessons, assignments, calendar, and message their teachers. Canvas also allows parents to stay connected to their child's grades through the Canvas Parent app. And as you can see from this slide, we've had a lot of use of Canvas since August 1st of this year. Currently, we have 3,619 students using Canvas and 261 teachers. And you can see from the data, we have a total of 1,021 courses and 12,000 assignments, 2,500 discussions, 19,000 files, and 2,300 media. And what's even more astounding is we've had almost 10 million, or I'm sorry, over 10 million page views by students since August 1st, which shows a high level of involvement and interest from students. And we've had 154,218 participations from students, meaning that they engaged in some sort of activity on Canvas, such as turning in an assignment. To prepare for distance learning in the fall, we launched several training courses for educators, such as Canvas 101 and high quality reading, writing, and math programs like Super Kids, Redbird, Achieve 3000, and Smarty Ants. We had 2 amazing distance learning webinars hosted by the incredible Grace Dearborn, who trained teachers on how to provide a quality education in a virtual classroom setting and enhance student engagement. And Canvas implementation has been made possible by training set early in the summer, one-on-one consultations, and continued support to teachers and principals. 240 educators successfully completed the Canvas 101 training course. I met with 225 amazing educators over the summer and helped them set up their courses and navigate through Canvas. And there were 215 follow-up contacts to ensure Canvas proficiency and properly functioning courses. Additionally, we continue to provide technical support throughout the year and training courses to maximize the quality of education our teachers are providing the students. Over 10 million page views and counting. We're excited to see how far we go with Canvas.
Those are huge engagement numbers. Oh my goodness, that's something that we strive for here at CEF. There's a lot of people there kind of working with the services you provide, or at least are able to kind of coordinate together. I guess one thing that comes to mind for me is we have an 8-month-old little girl, and I know the time will fly by, and it'll be in no time before she gets into school. And kind of going through this pandemic, our parents have really turned into teachers at home and have really kind of built a strong bridge over to the actual teachers and the instructors at their schools. And I mean, it seems like it could get very overwhelming. So Ellen, do you have anything, I guess, to share or to let us know about any sort of maybe supports that you have for the parents at home?
Well, you're exactly right, Johnny. I mean, the stress level that parents have now, and especially around credentials and passwords and how do I log in and all of this. So we've partnered with Power My Learning, an excellent parent engagement organization. And along with Jessica Yost and Melissa Hara's expertise, have been able to really create an amazing array of workshops for parents. So in September and October, and we're still running this in October, we've had over now 1,300 parents participate in our parent engagement. It's very focused around the Canvas learning management system because that's how all of our supports are delivered. So it's very Canvas centric. We do offer a couple of SEL opportunities. So learning together at home, so folks can understand what that's like, maybe behavior issues with your child that they're now able to see, that teachers always get to see, but now they're able to see, and parenting during stay at home. But the true focus where we're getting a lot of very high praise is around the Canvas, and Canvas is a family partner and parent app. It is part of what we do to connect parents, again, for the academic outcomes. To your point, Johnny, very, very important.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad that you covered that as well too. Just knowing that, it takes so many steps and so many pieces to the puzzle, and that village, analogy is such a such a true thing here too. We got a question, and I also like to remind everybody who is watching, if you have any questions for any of our guests, please send them through our chat feature. We have Sandra who's facilitating, and she'll send them my way as well too. But I do want to let you all know we did get a question that came in from actually the president of one of our high schools here. The question was, and I think this will kind of be a good segue into the next question that I have for you all, is if how can high schools best supplement the efforts of CSC at elementary schools? So I guess in the preparation of that, how can this be kind of a trifecta to continue that preparation for them? And I'd like to maybe even send it over to Sister Adela. I know you have a tight network of schools and that you facilitate as well. I think it was about 8 or 9. What would you say it's like to work with the CSC and that sort of partnership between the schools and CSC?
Mute.
I've only done Zoom for 6 months. So anyway, they've
Okay.
actually helped us to solidify our charism and to be accountable to it. Because about 20 years ago, we started to pull out of schools because of lack of personnel, but we had to make a choice. Our charism is service to the poor, but not all the schools we were in were poor. So we made a commitment to be in inner city schools with the materially poor, and to find a way to co-sponsor and support them in such a way that any child that wanted to come in to the school could. But part of that too is not only is it a ministry of the Catholic Church, and we want to produce adults that are going to make the world a better place and have a relationship with Christ, but they need the academics as well. And they should be the best academics we can possibly give them, because often you hear from people, well, they're poor, they can't excel because of this or this or this. And what CSC has done is basically shown, yes, in fact, they can, but it also holds our feet to the fire, which means we have to look at the data. The data doesn't lie. Before, we worked mostly on outreach.
Sister Adela, I think the microphone's a little covered. We heard you perfectly for the entire time, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, okay, there we go. So anyway, so what it's helping us to do is kind of like solidify and streamline our curriculum and our data, so we can in fact tell people that, this is what we're able to do for our kids, and we can see the progress and the growth. And what I'm hoping is that we can sustain it. It doesn't become an uneven thing that depends upon who's in leadership or who your staff is or whatever other changes might come in.
Oh, excellent. Wow. That's very important work. I really believe it. So I guess another thing too is with all of this data that you guys receive year over year, are there any things that you can say that really are little flags or key performance indicators for you to let you know that this is working? Steve, do you feel like you may be able to share with us a little bit of that?
Yeah, we put a lot of emphasis on tracking particular benchmarks over the years, and we're particularly interested in literacy and numeracy. As an example, last year, this would be the Lexile data from the 6 sites that operated with the most fidelity in our program last year. The dark green line tells you what would be the minimum proficiency for grade level, and the brownish line tells you where the school year began. The light green tells you where we ended up the year. So you see we made considerable progress, but there's still a gap, because in order to fill in the gap between where students are and where they need to be, you need to make more than a year of progress. So we aimed for 2 years progress in a year of instruction, or 200%. And we look for interventions and applications that have a proven record in long-term research of actually doing that. And so you see, we got those results last year. If you look at this chart, you'll see on the left the literacy gap in Lexile when the school year began. You see the gap we were left at the end of the year, even under COVID. And the last group shows you how much of that gap we made up last year. if we were to look at the expected gain in Lexile would be the amount of Lexile gain at each grade level across our schools we would have seen if you made a year's progress. And the green line is the actual progress we made last year. So you'll see that at every grade level, we made significantly more than a year's progress. Now, our goal is to make much more progress so that we're really at the 200 level, but this was the first year where we really saw very substantial gains. We have many, many data points we look at, but I'm just going to use Lexile because it's one way to tell the story. To look at that chart another way, this is the percentage of a year's growth that was made at each grade level. And so you see that, you know, we're now reaching toward the 125, 150% range, and our next goal is to get up to 200. We also saw a significant increase in the percentage of students who were college and career ready, which is another measurement we use within the programs. And you'll see the green line is where the year began and purple is where it ended at each grade level. Just as an example of one high fidelity school that we work with, the school that had our greatest gains, you'll see those same charts here for this particular school, looking at the green line, how much Lexile gain they made. And you'll notice that in 3 of the grades, they were up at the 200% point in making those gains last year. And so you can see the very substantial progress they made. Note that at the end of the year, we had 2 grade levels, really 3 that are just about at the proficiency point, and the 3rd grade actually moved beyond that. And so it gives an example of what you can do when you really focus your energies on doing this. By the way, this school's name rhymes with Dolores Mission.
Yay.
That's good. That's so good. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Oh, wow. So I'm sure all of our guests are just maybe even amped if they are not part of this network to see how you can. And I think this is something that we brought up too. We have one of our board members that chimed in as well too, Colleen Welsh. She's asking, how are schools selected to receive CSC support? I know we went over this a bit too, but this may not be a part of the slides, but maybe if Ellen or one of you can chime in on that as well too. How was that process of then getting into a school acquired?
So no, that's a great question. And, we are here to work with any school that's willing to work with us. And sometimes that's their worst nightmare. We do have high expectations for our schools. The first step basically is to do a sit down with Steve Johnson and myself, and we do basically a needs analysis of the school. We find out what the principal wants to do, what their vision is, where they want to head with their school, their sort of leadership qualifications, and their capacity and willingness to develop those. Steve has put together a fidelity chart around leadership points that we also use, and we then make an agreement. If the school site and the leader is willing to make this transformational change and lead his or her staff through that, which is really, really tough, then we set aside time to meet and establish those programs and move along into our whole child model. So it does take a lot of commitment and dedication from the principal, as well as the principal being able to then lead the site.
Right. I know you guys went over this before too, but how many schools are you guys actively collaborating with right now?
Right now we're working with 20 schools, and 16 of those 20 we have intensive supports in all 4 of the pillars that we've mentioned. So parent supports, SEL and wraparound supports, of course academic excellence, and everything is driven through leadership with Steve and the team. So those are the schools that are getting our full-throated support, 16 right now.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's still a lot, especially with the programs that you guys have in place too. I know each school has a different amount, but truly remarkable. So we'll jump back into the next set of questions that we've worked on. I'd say the pandemic has swept this year up and changed the perspective of so many across the globe. And in turn, I'm sure the need is even greater within the schools you work with. So is there sort of a metric, or is there a tangible way that you guys have seen that COVID has impacted some of the schools you work with?
So Steve, I'm not sure if you wanted to take that, or.
If we start, we look at school enrollment pretty critically through the time. If you look at the green line on this chart, you'll see the schools enrollment the day before COVID closed the schools. And on the blue line, you'll see is where we are right now. And so you'll see that, we've been looking at first of all, how has it affected both enrollment and then student engagement? And there are a lot of other measures we look at how it's varied student engagement, but we started by just looking at enrollment trends and found that as we looked at enrollment trends across the school, there were three general things we would notice as we looked at what percent the attendance declined. That the larger schools lost fewer students relative to the smaller schools. So we have some schools that actually increased in number, and we have others that took 33% hits to their enrollment. That schools that ran special summer intensive programs online lost fewer students than schools that did not. And sponsored schools that were parts of networks, particularly the religious orders networks, lost fewer students than parish schools. So we were looking at some of the others. I'll throw it to Ellen for what other things we noticed during COVID, because it was certainly a challenging time, but we actually saw students continue to make gains in programs that focused on data.
We did. And I think one of the other areas that I don't want to overlook, because it's really critical to our work, is our fundraising. And we are driven by an excellent board of directors led by Bruce Willison, Dean Emeritus of UCLA Anderson School of Business. We've got Carrie Shea Tilton on our board, Michael Feely, Antonio Felix, and Susan Moley, who direct our work and are very, very engaged in the work that we do and help us open doors to funders. I think one of the things that happened during COVID, in addition to the tremendous support and extra support that we've gotten from folks like the Hilton Foundation and Shea Family Charities, as well as the Doheny Foundation, the Smet Foundation, is we were able to garner some additional support from more municipal partners. So like the LA Regional COVID Fund, we were able to get some support there, who really liked the distance learning supports that we were providing and the effectiveness of our program. So we were able to garner a very generous grant from them. Also, the California Community Foundation, we were able to get some funding during the summer for their summer learning initiative. They partnered with LACO, the Los Angeles County Office of Education, and their Greater LA Foundation to provide support for us to help with that COVID slide that we all braced for on top of the summer slide. So I think it's really critical to our work that we continue to garner these funds. But it was really nice to also see that we were able to get the attention of some other folks and their generosity as well.
Yeah, as we all know, during these times, or just any times, fundraising never stops. That's for sure, especially with this new uptick now with what's going on. So, I mean, it's truly tremendous, the fact that you're able to continue to work on what you guys need to work on to deliver it to the schools that really, really need it. We do have Carrie Tilton, one of your board members, on with us today as well. So thank you for joining us. And we're so glad that you're here and that you're able to guide this wonderful initiative to so many of the schools that do need it. I think I'll take this time to maybe close out, and one of those, I guess, is there a nugget that you guys have been left with after all of these years of working with so many people? Is there something that you guys can say that you've certainly learned through this process?
I think if we were to look at what we learned in this process, it's first that people learn what they spend their time learning. And if there's more engaged time and high quality, effective curriculum, you get more growth. The second is the gap can be and is being narrowed. And I love the question from the high school principal about what do we do to articulate better with high schools? Well, we make sure students are ready to do high school when they get to high school. And we focus on closing the gaps that really become barriers to their progress at the high school and college level. We recognize that we must use and integrate effective programs that work in class, hybrid, who knows what setting we'll be in, who knows what will happen next. It's the job of the school to be ready. We learned that data can drive the program, but only if you provide weekly support and accountability measures. We're looking at the data every week, and we found if you don't do that, things get lost. You kind of get what you inspect, not what you expect. And finally, we need to focus on closing that gap by increasing the use of these really effective instructional capacities. So you see, it really comes down to focusing on the gap and using data to get through it.
Wow, so exciting. You know what, I'm going to ask my text board. Sandra, do you see any other questions coming in from anybody? And if you also do have a question, obviously you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask our wonderful guests that we have on today.
No, not at the moment, but anyone feel free to send them through the chat feature or just raise your hand if you want to speak to the guest yourself.
Absolutely. Well, if nothing comes in, obviously, if it does come in, we'll stop and get it over to the CSC team. And if not, obviously, after our episode is done, we will have some more sort of a link so that way you can get in contact with them as well, too. We have their website. So yeah, I want to say thank you so much to our guests this morning. Ellen, Steve, Melissa, Jessica, Sister Adela, you guys are doing great work. And I'm so happy to have you guys here with me this morning. So let's yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for all of you for being on here. This episode was truly data heavy. I think there was some things that we really brought home on why it's so vital that CSC is working in our Catholic schools, and we're just so happy to have you guys on. And I hope that some of our guests have some inspiration to take with them for the second half of their week. We also like to extend a big thank you to all the Catholic schools across the Archdiocese for your dedicated work, especially during this time. Our school principals and pastors are working hard to reach out to our families and make sure that our Catholic schools are available to everyone who wants to enroll. There's always the goal that no one is turned away for lack of funds, though it is increasingly difficult to offer the amount of financial aid that is needed. So if you can give right now, please visit our website at cfdn.org. 100% of your donation to CF will support tuition awards. And also, if you'd like to get some more information about Catholic Schools Collaborative, please visit their website. I'm sure any of them will be happy to inform you on some of the questions that you may have, and visit them at csclosangeles.org for any more information on their efforts as well. So on that note, I just would like to say thank you for joining us this morning. It was a truly special day and special morning, and I hope that you all enjoyed yourselves. We will be back next week at 10 a.m., so look out in your emails for any of our marketing. And as always, please RSVP cfdn.org/coffee with CEF, the same way you did for today's episode. And yeah, happy Wednesday, everybody. Appreciate everybody coming, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the second and third cup of coffee that you may have later.
Go Dodgers.
Dodgers. Thank you, everybody.